I'm Dr. Jacqueline Mims. I'm currently serving as chair of the Baton Rouge North Economic Development District. Hosting this event is our executive director, Mr. Jerry Jones. On behalf of the Baton Rouge North Economic Development District, I want to thank you guys for participating. We are, of course, we've been in the process of developing a website. That's another whole story, but we are developing a website. Mr. Jones is going to may talk to you a little bit more about our newsletter. There are a number of activities and goals that we have, but many of you may not realize the limited amount of dollars we actually have to operate with. For today's discussion, I'm not going to start this conversation, but I will simply state that we hope to engage you in additional conversations with regard to what are your expectations for Baton Rouge North Economic Development District, because oftentimes I think people have held us accountable for some things that, one, we were not aware that there was an expectation for, and that individuals may not realize the limited funds that we have to operate with. But without any further ado, I want to again thank you for participating. At the end of the meeting, you may also hear from Mr. Brian LaFleur, our vice chair. He may come on towards the end to close out and to thank you as well. At this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Jerry Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I really do appreciate you, and thank you for your leadership. I think Baton Rouge North Economic Development District has continued to grow underneath your leadership, and we definitely do want to share an appreciation for what you're doing in your capacity. I'm here to give a bit of the ground rules, so to speak, and to kind of give you guys an idea as to how Zoom will be facilitating operating today. If you are on any of your mobile devices or your computer, please look down at the bottom and you'll see where it says Q&A. That is where questions go, and we are going to provide answers. And so we are going to move very timely. It is going to start with the mayor. She's going to make about 15 minutes presentation, and then we're going to start rolling onto our council members. After that, we're going to have some brief updates on the Scotlandville master plan. And then from there, we're going to take questions and we're going to attempt to have the respected elected officials on the call provide answers to the best of their abilities. I'm going to moderate the questions. The question may not be asked the way you typed it. I'm going to ask it in a way that I think gets the question out and gets the answers that you're searching for. And so with that, we're going to start with our city parish president, Sharon Westenbrook.
Thank you so much, Jerry, and to the council members and also to the attendees who are on this call, to the leadership of the North Baton Rouge Economic Development District. Thanks so much for taking the time to have this conversation today to talk about the state of business specifically in North Baton Rouge and our plans for the future. You know, I don't have to tell you that this part of our community is very rich in history and in culture. Revitalizing North Baton Rouge, as I've often said and continue to say, will certainly benefit and does benefit our entire community. If you would indulge me, I'm going to go into a slide presentation at this point and continue to speak with you all. Okay, so since taking office in 2017, my administration has worked to expand East Baton Rouge Parish's economy through building a stronger workforce and attracting job opportunities in the capital area. As you see here, as we take a snapshot of 2018 and 2019, 38% of the new and retained jobs went to North Baton Rouge, with 35% of the payroll going to North Baton Rouge, and 97% of capital expenses going to North Baton Rouge. Over the last 3.5 years, our workforce in North Baton Rouge has serviced all of the sectors that come together to create our local economy. Sectors like distribution and warehousing, to digital media, to service centers, to chemical manufacturing, and to healthcare, to name a few. You know, I often say that Baton Rouge is open for business, and we've shown that is true, especially in areas like North Baton Rouge, where I have certainly been focused on being very intentional. Since taking office, the Howell Place Medical Office Building was placed back into commerce. And I want to thank you all for your support of that and encouragement towards that, and now serves as the location for Our Lady of the Lake North. This created over 100 new jobs alone. I just found out that you all weren't able to see the PowerPoint, I think, so I apologize, but I'm going to continue down the path. You did hear me. So let's talk about community revitalization for a moment. I recognize, of course, that economic growth is not the only factor that contributes to the success of the community. That's why it's so important and imperative for us to focus not only on business, but on the community itself. And so many areas of our parish, especially here in North Baton Rouge, are often targeted for illegal dumping. That's why I started our Operation Fresh Start initiative. Our campaign partners with the Department of Public Works, with neighborhood groups, with our council members to support beautification and enhancements on a quarterly basis. Since we began, we disposed of over 400 tons of trash and debris, removed over 6,300 illegally dumped tires, removed over 3,100 bags of litter, filled over 170 potholes, removed 34,000 pounds of broken concrete, and removed 140 illegally placed signs. But the work continues. And so cleaning our communities is an ongoing process, and it has to be a coordinated process to build pride and economic prosperity. Last year, Baton Rouge was awarded the $30 million Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This is a biggie. The grant, of course, will be used to rejuvenate the neighborhoods of Smiley Heights and Melrose East, and it will also make significant improvements to housing in that area, along with providing new and updated amenities. Also in partnership with Build Baton Rouge, as you know, and you've been an integral part of the conversation, the final stages of the Plank Road Master Plan are in development to grow commerce and access to jobs. The master plan is a real important step in building up neighborhood institutions and strengthening the infrastructure in the Plank Road corridor. This plan includes a partnership with CATS, which will offer a rapid bus transit system along the corridor, providing public transportation every 20 minutes. And that will ultimately connect Southern University, the Southern University, with Plank Road, downtown, and LSU as well. So we are also partnering with private industry to revitalize our community. You know, in order for us to achieve the goals that we and the vision that we have for our community, it takes public-private partnerships. And recently, InvestOur Bank announced their plan to purchase land in North Baton Rouge. Their purchase is part of their unique approach to increasing home ownership in historically underserved areas. We continue to make investments with our RECAST grant, which seeks to address community-wide trauma. In 2016, our community experienced significant trauma with the Alton Sterling killing, the ambush killing of our officers in the Great Flood. The RECAST grant is providing ongoing counseling services, small group activities, and most recently during the coronavirus pandemic, a call-in service for our seniors experiencing isolation. In 2018, RECAST spent $166,000 in our community. In 2019, $189,000, and in 2020 already $203,000. In these two slides you're looking at right now, you will see the different agencies who have partnered with us in RECAST. Agencies like the Bridge Agency, Volunteers on a Mission, Capital Area Human Services, just to name a few. The Mayor's Healthy City Initiative has also been making significant investments in our community. In the last year, Go Get Healthy engaged over 4,000 people, distributed over 6,000 units of fresh food to people living in the 70805 zip code. In partnership with Hope Credit Union, we secured $1.8 million, and I want to thank the council members for their support on this, to address food deserts and attract grocery stores in underserved areas. You know, yesterday I was on a call with someone with 15 minutes with the mayor, and the gentleman said to me, he said, well, you know, I see that they're now putting nutritious foods into Dollar Generals. And I said, you know, you want to know how that happened? It was through a series of intense conversations that I had along with Vineeth Iyengar to implore Dollar General to expand affordable and nutritious foods through their stores in our community. And eventually it became a reality. Our Live Wellness Wednesday event has been shifted to a virtual platform because of COVID-19, but we're having an opportunity to identify and address community health disparities during these times, and improvement in engagement, including those with transportation barriers. And through the program, we have reached 1,400 people, 53 units of food have been distributed, 9 cooking demos, a number of videos have been shared, and you can see the list goes on as you look at the slide. Of course, we've hired a health specialist. We've partnered with AHA and Top Box Foods to provide cooking classes. We've partnered with Our Lady of the Lake and LSU to lead grocery store tours. So we've been doing a lot in that space. I want people to remember the name Top Box as well, because Top Box is working with a home delivery model, and they have doubled their delivery capacity in Baton Rouge. Also, Baton Rouge Community Farms is a part of our initiative too. And so they have expanded their footprint as well. And we recently received a $100,000 National Endowment for Arts Our Town award to fund the development of a comprehensive master plan to repurpose additional acreage there at Brett's Howell Park. And as I come to a close, of course, I have to thank you all for your support of helping us invest in our infrastructure. Of course, I don't have to tell you about MOVE EBR, the largest infrastructure enhancement traffic mitigation plan in the history of Baton Rouge, with $1 billion, 70 improvements, projects for roads, 3,000 jobs being created, and the list goes on. And I will tell you that we do have a significant outreach to small and minority businesses in this program as well, and would be glad to provide more information on that. In conclusion, these are just some of the investments on this screen that we've made in our Head Start project over the past 5 years. Also with our housing opportunities, with our employee BR, our community service block grant. Look at these numbers here. And we do have plans for future investments as well. And so with that being said, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share what we have been doing in the North Baton Rouge area in terms of investments, and the work must continue. And please know I am committed to continuing that work. There was a lot more I could share, but I'm going to bring it to a close, and I look forward to entertaining any questions that you might have as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Madam President Broome. At this time, we're going to move to our first council presentation or remarks. It's going to be Councilwoman Shauna Banks. Councilwoman Banks, you have the turn.
Okay.
Need to unmute, Shauna.
Let me see if I can unmute.
Shauna.
Oh, no, we still can't hear you, Shauna.
She needs to unmute.
Councilwoman Banks. Still can't hear you. Check and see if it's asking you for the computer microphone, because sometimes it'll ask you if you want to check computer microphone. We're going to go to the next person, and we're going to give you an opportunity to address those technical difficulties. The next person on the list is Councilman Cole. Councilman Cole, are you ready?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to all of the wonderful ladies I have the opportunity to serve with on the Metro Council for their efforts in all of our districts. And as well, I want to thank our mayor for her leadership and the wonderful job she's doing in terms of making sure there is an aggressive attempt to provide access and equity in the communities where we need it most. Particularly as we talk about District 7, I want to highlight a couple of areas we have to think about in terms of the work that goes on in District 7. And I want to go back to 2016 because much of what happened in 2016 took place in District 7. When we think about the incident with Blaine Salamone and his inability to be an effective officer in addressing what was going on with Alton Sterling, and when we think about the Great Flood and how the area of District 7 was affected by the flood, we have to use that as a backdrop for what has taken place in the district and what still needs to happen in District 7. And so we think about the areas of crime, economic development, education or lack thereof, quality education inside the district. And then we think about one of the bigger issues, which is blight, and how blight increased in District 7 as a result of the flood in the areas around Winburn and Brookstown and some of Eden Park and some of Fairfield, which were affected by the flood. We have to think about the work that has taken place inside the district over the last 4 years in an effort to improve. So when we think about the initiatives mentioned by our mayor, the Plank Road Corridor Project, many of the projects that are going to take place and are planned to take place are going to take place in District 7, which is going to have an impact on the economic infrastructure and economic participation in the district. When we talk about education, we recognize that working with our school system, we have seen new schools being built in District 7, Capitol Elementary, Capitol Middle. The newest school is Park Elementary, the $22 million facility, which I think is one of the nicest schools in the district. And so when we think about those schools and those developments that have taken place in District 7, we have to be proud of that. We also recently, working with the mayor's office and working with our healthcare officials, we saw the reopening of the emergency room at Baton Rouge General, which the front side of Baton Rouge General resides in District 7. And so we recognize that there is access to healthcare now in District 7, which didn't exist prior to 2020, and which didn't exist prior to 2016, being that the hospital had closed down. So there's a lot of great things that have taken place inside the district, but where we still need to push forward is economic participation, the economic inclusion, and then the development of the infrastructure. We've seen from the road project, we have some streets that have been improved. We see now that going through District 7, Choctaw is being repaved and redone, which is huge for the district because we've suffered with potholes in that area for a long time. Many of the potholes in District 7 that existed prior to 2016 have been filled as a result of our efforts. We still have a lot of work to do because, again, I don't think people recognize, understand, and appreciate how severely District 7 was affected by the Great Flood and what happened as a result of people having to move. Many of the residents were renters who were living in properties in District 7 and they left the district. And then many of the homeowners who own homes in District 7 don't actually live in Baton Rouge. And so much of those property are blighted now. And so we're working with our city parish government to address those concerns, but it is a process and we still have a long way to go. I think ideally what we like to see in District 7, being that it is in the center of the city of Baton Rouge, is more economic development. We want to see our small business owners have an opportunity to expand what they're doing within the district and then to improve some of what takes place. We don't have any grocery stores, big chain grocery stores in District 7. We don't have any restaurants in District 7. And so we have to think about how do we attract those individuals to come to the district, set up shop and be there for a long time and work with the community to make sure those things actually happen in a meaningful way. So there's work that has taken place and has gone on in the district, and much of that work has happened as a result of all of us working together. So I don't want to ever make it seem as if I did it alone. We had to do this work to make sure that all of our districts saw forward movement, but there's still a long way to go. While we've done better in terms of trash pickup, there's still a lot of trash that we need to see picked up in the district. And one of the things we have to be clear of about trash pickup is the cycle in which trash is picked up. What day your trash is picked up, or what days heavy waste is picked up, what days tree debris is picked up, what days you can put out large items for them to be picked up, and what that looks like. We want to encourage residents to continue to use the 311 number to contact and call to report pickups for trash. We want to encourage residents to continue to use 311 number to report, and then also make sure you contact our office in the event that the services you requested be addressed are not being addressed, and we can do our best to make sure we do that. Now, District 7 is extremely diverse. There are 43,000 residents who live in District 7, and it spans from the corner of Acadian and Perkins all the way to the corner of Airline Highway and Evangeline. On the north side of District 7, we have people who are living below poverty, and on the south side of District 7, we have individuals who are extremely wealthy, and median household income is about $3 to $4 million a year. So it's an extremely diverse district with a lot of needs, and we have to identify where the greatest needs are and continue to make sure we're working to address the greatest needs so we can provide all of the residents, not only in District 7, but in our city, with a great quality of life that they can be proud of. So they want to be safe. Working with Chief Paul over the last 4 years prior to 2020 and the pandemic, we saw a decrease in crime since he took office throughout the district. And we saw a decrease in some of the shots fired in the area. We saw a decrease in some of the homicides in the area. Now, don't get me wrong. Any homicide, any shots fired in District 7 are far too many. But I do want to say there is progress being made. It's going to take all of us to continue to do this work and make sure we address the concerns, we address the issues, and we address the needs. So I am echoing Mayor Broom's initiatives to bring fresh food, healthy food, fruits and vegetables to the district through some of the initiatives, but I think we have to keep pushing until we see a big chain grocery store that is in the district that allows and has access to fresh food, fresh grocery, fresh vegetables for our families. And then we have to go a step further. We need some entertainment opportunities in the district. We also need to ensure that there are quality restaurants in the district. And so we want to keep working in cohesion and in collaboration with the mayor's office and with the other council members to do as best we can to make that happen. And so in the coming weeks, we want to do a tour with some members of your organization, Jerry, with some members of the chamber and with other members of the community who are interested in seeing what it's like for a resident who lives in an area and doesn't have access to the quality healthcare, quality education, isn't allowed to participate in economic infrastructure, to make sure they understand what that looks like and then work towards making sure it happens. So I'm extremely proud of the work that has taken place, that we've been able to accomplish. But again, we have so much more to do, and we're going to continue to work to make sure we get that done. I know I've been somewhat long-winded, but I could talk about District 7, the concerns, the successes, and some of the challenges all night and all day for that matter. So I'll yield now to one of my other colleagues.
Thank you so very much, Councilman Cole. I really appreciate your remarks. We're going to circle back to Councilwoman Banks and see if she's ready to go. And she's not. We're going to try again and see. Let's go with Councilwoman Tara Wicker. You have to and then you just have to unmute yourself. There you go.
How about that?
There you go.
Great. Thank you so much. I have been truly enjoying the comments that are coming forth, and I want to just I'm trying not to be long as well. I'm kind of like Lamont, but there's so much that I would love to have the opportunity to cover, and I hope that we have an opportunity to have more of these, Jerry, because these are really, really great. But specifically as it relates to the northern part of the area of District 10, of course, you all may know that District 10 goes from the back gates of Southern University all the way to the back gates of LSU. And so sort of for the first time 10 years ago in history, we have a council district that has both Southern University, LSU, and the seat of government all within the same district. And so while it's vast, I think it also presents a unique opportunity to make sure that those anchors of our community and that all of those communities and those connectors that are within have everything that it needs to be able to flourish. And you know, I heard Miss Sadie Roberts Joseph years ago, she would always say that it's impossible for you to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And I think it's imperative, especially during this time, that it's important for us to be reminded of the groundwork that was laid and the things that have been done in our past that is sort of setting us up for being able to be poised for success here in the future and moving forward. I think Lamont said it best where he says it's not going to take just one of us doing this, but it realistically is going to take all of us working together. And I think a culmination of all of the great things that have happened throughout the years in this community, and if we're able to be smart about it and not necessarily care about who gets the credit, but just get the work done, then we can be successful, and our generations and our children's children won't be having to sit here having the same conversations that we're having. So, you know, back years ago, and I won't go too far back, but I will say this. There was a time when I was a student at Southern University and working as the public affairs director for at that time, SGA President Wilson Fields. And at that time, it was a whole conversation about Southern University and Scotlandville, and how while we were there on campus as young students, you know, striving and knowing that we were going to change the world, we also recognized there was a whole community on the other side that was not readily connected to, in many cases, didn't even know how to connect in what we always affectionately call across the hump. And so Wilson, you know, had this wonderful, great idea. He said, you know what, we're going to come together 2 o'clock in the morning, the brainstorming happened, and we're going to paint these paws, these jaguar paws all over the hump that leads from Southern University down into the community. And so we did that. And that's one of the things that I'm always proud of when I'm driving across the hump. We can see those paws have lasted throughout that time and they're still there. But I said all that to say because that was significant. There was always the desire to have that revitalization opportunity, and as we were growing and thriving at Southern, to be able to be transformed over into the Scotlandville community. However, I do want to go back even a little bit further, because many of you may or may not realize this, that Scotlandville, much like the southern part of my district in South Baton Rouge, was formerly the hub of economic revitalization, not only education and training, but it was the place to go. We had grocery stores, we had commerce, we had everything very similar to Old South Baton Rouge. And over the years, and as a result of disinvestment and people moving out and moving away, we've been able to see all of these years of decline. However, at the heart of everybody that's there, that hope and that understanding about the importance of revitalization has continued to live on. And I believe that is what has brought us to this point now. Back in 1994, when we started the first community development corporation for the Scotlandville area, there was some planning going on, but it wasn't a whole lot of roll your sleeves up and let's get it done. And so I want to always go back and thank the Scotlandville Community Development Corporation, which to this day is still in place, still building houses and still keeping the dream alive about making sure that residents in the Scotlandville community can choose Scotlandville as a place that they can live and raise a family, just like we've seen it traditionally done. And so there are numerous houses that have been built and are still being built. When the Redevelopment Authority came, we looked at, of course, all of the 5 what we call community improvement areas, and Scotlandville was one of those that developed a community improvement plan. Now, of course, that has been translated over to build Baton Rouge, and there are a lot of different moving parts in that. What I am most excited about right now is the fact that Southern University has put on with CPACs and other individuals a number of workshops and meetings to say, Southern University is more than just what's on this side of the hump. It is connected to this larger community. And so now there's this overall plan that's being incorporated. And I want to thank them for not, we plan our communities to death. And the conversation is, what's needed? When John Freganesi came to town, he said, well, what's needed? Well, these neighborhoods have been planned to death. What's needed is the implementation strategy. And so I want to commend Southern for being able to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to throw everything out and start over from scratch and ask everybody the same thing, the questions that have been asked and answered. Let's start here. Let's look at the plans that have been developed by Metropolitan. Let's look at the plans that were developed by the Scotlandville Community Development Corporations and all the charrettes that they did. Let's look at all the plans that have been put forth, and let's go ahead, the ones that were put together by the Scotlandville community through Southern University's architectural department, which we were able to get amended and put into the Future BR program. And let's use that as our foundation. And so now we have all of those 10 elements in that plan that we're realistically able to bring to the table and say, let's not start like we're starting from scratch, from behind, but let's move forward. One of the things that I wanted to also address, we had, and when Chana Banks and I first got on the council, one of the first things that we had to deal with was the buyout of the community where the North wastewater treatment, the avenues. And, that was difficult, but being able to go in and work with those residents, the city, and partners that were involved.
See, here it is.
Those homes and those individuals that needed access to be able to make sure that they were treated fairly was a part of that whole process. And then going back, looking at what's going to happen with that green space. And so those community residents in the Avenues area now to this day are wanting to make sure, are we going to use it as a park? Are we going to reutilize this green space? So moving forward and planning, we have to make sure that that is also a part of that planning process as Southern University even looks to expand, even going further north. There was the establishment of the Scotlandville Community Coalition, which was a coalition of the different neighborhoods within the Scotlandville area coming together along with Kadav and Southern Heights and others to say, how do we make sure that we maintain the integrity, the pride of what we all know Scotlandville can be, and let's work together to make sure that it is completely and totally revitalized. I cannot leave this conversation without having giving a lot of credit, a ton of credit to CADOB, Community Against Drugs and Violence, was actually developed the same time that I served as a young community organizer that started the Scotlandville CDC. And CADOB has been there throughout the years, still continues to do the neighborhood cleanups and making sure that the community is safe and making sure that those partnerships with city government, community residents are being educated. There was a facade improvement program that was done along the scenic highway corridor where those businesses that decided to remain in the community were able to access a facade improvement grant, where some of them had to do a match and others were able to improve their facade, the fronts of their businesses. There is so much that's going on. One of the things, let me dig a little bit into some of the issues. My children were attending Southern Lab, and where my husband graduated from. And back in June, I guess June 10th of last year, a lot of us found our neighborhoods and our communities in a place that we had not been before, where there were areas after the 2016 flood that had never flooded before that were flooding. We knew that even before 2016, that area on Scenic Highway, right there by Airline, historically, every time that it rained, people would have PTSD because we knew that it was going to flood. And then last year, it got so bad that people were not even able to get out of their neighborhoods and get off of campus to be able to come because it was all flooded. So one of the things that we had a conversation about there previously, and actually was in the previous administration and on into this one, was about that road swap of that portion of Scenic Highway. It was agreed that they did a portion of it, but we still need to make sure that that portion of Scenic Highway that allows us as city government to be able to maintain and take care of that portion in the way that we know that it should, and not necessarily have to wait on, the state to do it for us, is something that we definitely need to push for and make sure absolutely that happens, because we have to identify the issues about that drainage that's going on. 72nd Street sidewalks. I am elated about, Move BR and everything that has happened. That is a project that was part of Green Light and part of many other road projects from a long time ago that the neighborhood has been waiting and waiting to see happen. And not only just the sidewalks on 72nd, but let's have a conversation about the sidewalks plan that's needed specifically for that Banks community, which makes up a significant chunk of the District 10 area. There are ditches that are open that we're working to try to figure out what would it take for us to make sure that Banks has this walkable neighborhood. I know that Southern Heights has a different idea as it relates to sidewalks, as does Banks, but I think being able to have that connection point to making sure that those issues are addressed and people can safely walk through their community and bike through their community is something that we've got to be able to focus on. The last thing, and I'm just doing this because I want to be respectful of everybody's time, is looking at the ability to have access to primary health care services. When we talked, and Lamont mentioned it about the reopening, I was elated about the reopening of the Baton Rouge General Mid-City Emergency Room, because, kind of the offshoot of that was they closed that and we were supposed to be able to utilize the emergency facility that was on Airline. And many of us, any of you know, while we're glad access to real emergency services still was a component that needed to be fleshed out and needed to be handled in a much broader perspective. The idea of being able to look holistically at that North Baton Rouge region as having that medical village, where still our citizens do not have access to good quality primary health care services. And so being able to work along with Southern University's nursing center, those facilities that are up there, those medical facilities, we have a ton of opportunity, and that area is primed for revitalization, and now is the time. I had a little t-shirt that was made that I gave to Pat to say, North Baton Rouge, it's our time. and it is our time to be able to move forward. I am elated about being able to work along with all the different community partners. Before John Fraganesi passed away, he had a meeting with us at IHOP along with Senator Barrow and 3 neighborhoods along that entire Plank Road corridor to say, what do we need to do to look at bringing life back into this whole Plank Road corridor? And I want to thank Mayor Broome, because when she came into office, that plan, Mayor Holden had that whole Plank Road corridor plan done, and she's taken it and been able to work along with Bill BR and bring it back to fruition and bring it up to the part where we all know that Plank Road is going to be that major connector, because quite frankly, we can't use Scenic Highway in the way that we thought before. So love everything that's going on, but y'all, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Expansion of golf services in North Baton Rouge for our young children, and lots of opportunity though. So with that, I'm going to just close it out. Again, please, let's have more and more of this conversation, but I know we have a lot of other speakers and I want to be respectful of their time as well. But thank you for an opportunity just to reflect and also to talk about how we move things forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Wicker. Next up, we're going to try Councilwoman Banks again, and after that, if we're going to move to Councilwoman Lewis. I'm going to unmute everything that she has. Unmute both of them.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Actually, you hear me?
Oh no, it's not gonna work.
You can hear me on my phone, but not my computer.
There you go. It's
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes, ma'am. You can go. You got the floor.
Okay. All right, great. So, District 2, first of all, it's 5 minutes. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, when we talk about District 2, also it's one of those districts that is extremely diverse. Basically, it encompasses 3 area codes, the largest being 70807, but also the city of Baker 70714, and everything north of Hooper to the Comeet River 70811. This would be my 8th year in office, and when I think about where things began, I don't think that would even be a conversation as it relates to having a North Baton Rouge town hall meeting. And I must say that is because of the work of all the council members, even those that precede us, that would not let go of the vision and the dream of a North Baton Rouge, would not go into accepting the myths about North Baton Rouge. When I think about District 2, the best way for me to talk about our successes are to basically divide them in what the 4 economic development hubs or entities that we grow from. And when I talk about that, I'm thinking in regards to Howell Place, the Baton Rouge Zoo, the airport, and though Southern University isn't in the district, I would say its feet are in the district. So in working plans, and we talk about Howell Place is basically a 30-year dream of a developer where all the projects that began at that time are probably completed, but we're still fighting the good fight. My goal is to have a full-service medical entity and district in the Howell Place area. We already have the 3-story building. You know, lots of interest, as the mayor indicated, it did go on sale, but I really believe that is what needs to be in that location, because that's where you'll end up getting a pharmacy and possibly a grocery store. We already have the YWCA, there are hotels, there are eateries. So looking over the plan that currently exists for that and making it viable for what the needs are for our community today is something that I want to focus more on, and hope that it definitely will come to fruition. When we talk about the Baton Rouge Zoo, I can never be thankful enough for what BREC is doing. A $250 million investment to North Baton Rouge is unheard of. 2 days ago, we went through the entire project with the developers. With that investment, not only comes tourism to our area, which would bring dollars as it relates to hotel stays and people stopping at the Walmart and the Dollar General and all the stores in between, but also our young people having jobs, because BREC begins hiring at 15. So instead of our young people having to drive from North Baton Rouge to South Baton Rouge for a little job, I think we'll be able to serve them there. Not to mention the conservation and being able to work with our educational system as it relates to all kind of animal and zoo conservation. Lastly, from that area, we're looking for, which includes, you know, a golf course and all. We're looking at some space that off Thomas Road that will have lakefront housing. We're talking to developers in that area. There are other developers around that are expressing interest, everything along Scenic Highway, Thomas Road, Blunt Road, and of course the city of Baker with Mayor Waits. I am fortunate that in my area that we are very beneficial of a mayor that basically has to come to me just for support on items that deal with the unincorporated area of Baker, but very much is doing a great job within the city limits of Baker with Mayor Waits. The airport is another area that I like to focus on. Very happy with the new leadership at the Baton Rouge Zoo, doing phenomenal things, getting funding from the federal level just recently with Congressman Graves. We are working currently on a FAA change with the Plank Road, where they're going to have to expand Plank Road, where it will not be as it is, where it just goes from north to south, but that it would have to kind of curve a little bit in a bend and come back around the church Saintsville. They have acquired all the properties in that area near off Plank Road, but there are about 3 acres that are needed to fulfill the site plan that the FAA has approved with the Baton Rouge Airport. Certainly, the airport, like so many other areas, have been hurt during this pandemic. But you know, in spite of that, the airport and its leadership are working tremendously hard to get those things in place. My vision for that entire Veterans Memorial Boulevard is to have the prison move to where Old Jetson is. I think throughout the country, when there's an airport, there isn't a prison across the street, but there's a hotel, there are restaurants, there are a retail shop, and I would like that to be what happens across from the Baton Rouge airport. We were successful in making sure that the tire shredder was not going to be an additional hindrance in our expansion of the airport. And so I'm very thankful for the council for working with me and making sure, and the mayor's office for offering an alternative site for that, because that really would have hurt us, and I'm just eternally grateful. As it relates to Southern University in Scotlandville, that too, that relationship is also something that I began to champion with President Bell in 2015 on how we can complement each other, because there's no Southern University without a thriving Scotlandville, and no thriving Scotlandville without a thriving Southern University. So the CPEX plan, I understand, I talked to Pat LaDuff with Kadab, and I believe they'll be making a short presentation today. But as it relates, everything that we do in the Scotlandville area, it is partially because we want, when students and employees come to Southern University, that they have those quality of life assets, not only decent housing in the area, but also, you know, a grocery store, recreation. The Scotlandville Plaza received $25,000, and that's what I'm calling the council. The mayor allowed us to acquire some adjudicated property. The council approved. We're working on a master plan for Scotlandville Plaza. We brought interest to that just by having the tree lighting in Scotlandville. And then from that, Byron, Washington started having Scotlandville Saturday. And just recently, the crew of Ocean. But all of those small things, because we've learned you don't wait until the big money and the big ideas come. You just start with where you are. And then that's where the attention has come. So we did get that $25,000. We're working on some additional projects, trying to meet with Canadian National to see what kind of funding they would give us, because we've noticed that throughout the country, they do help with spaces near their railroads, and that property would qualify as such. So the strip that, as Councilwoman Wicker alluded to, Scotlandville being an area where middle-class African Americans that worked at Southern, worked in industry live, and where we shopped was along the Scotlandville Avenue between Sora Street and Swan. We have so thankful for two African American business partners that have acquired that entire strip. One of them have completed their architectural plan. They are working so well together that the other one is going to just expand and do the same thing. We're hoping not to give too much information, that that would be a total game changer, because so many people have to come that way to go to Southern University. So many people come from out of town and from throughout the capital region to go to Southern University games, and they are heartbroken by what they see as that being blighted. So a lot of success is going on. It's a slow but deliberate move. One last thing I want to talk about is Elm Grove Garden Park. After much time, we were able to get that torn down. HUD has agreed to allow me to keep the Section 8 certificate for my area. There's a developer that's going to be working. Housing Authority has come on board. The mayor's office with community development will be making it. That is going to be an entirely new housing entity with a commons area, with playground, and it lines right into the sidewalks that we have already been approved for Elm Grove Garden Drive. We already have them, new ones on Harding Boulevard, Central Road. And, you know, as my other colleagues have said, we could go on and on about our successes and our dreams and visions for our district. But we do, in the interest of time, I'd like to thank you all, and thank you, Jerry and Dr. Mims, for giving us this opportunity. And we look forward to engaging with our constituents and stakeholders in the future.
Thank you so very much, Councilwoman Banks. At this time, we're going to move to Councilwoman Donna Collin-Lewis, and you now have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. How much time do we really have left, Jerry, on the call? Because I don't want to block somebody else out. Do we still have time to continue on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so great, thank you. So thanks to all of you guys for being here. Really am so honored, like Lamont, to be a part of the council for the last almost 12 years. And in my tenure, on the council, I've seen lots of changes throughout the city of Baton Rouge as a whole, and proud to have served for the last 12 years, very involved in the community before I came to the council. My passion's always been around housing, community and economic development. And so some of the things, and I'll just highlight briefly, some of the things that I have most proud of and have seen and worked on within District 6, first coming to the council with Walter Mansour being on the RDA, and the community improvement plans that Tara spoke of earlier. I know mine was what was called the then Melrose East area, which they've now named the entire project Ardendale. but that was my community improvement. I think Towers was Northdale, and one of them was Choctaw. So we've seen improvements in those areas, but I'm most proud of the work that's happened in the Ardendale area. It was an effort that started long before I got on the council. I know then Senator Broom, and along with the late Representative Alfred C. Williams, who worked very diligently to make sure that the funding was in place to acquire the property that now houses the community college, the expansion of the automotive center. And so there was efforts there. And so I was going to give credit to people that came before me. And I know that there will be many people that will come after us that will continue the work that we have been passed the baton to do. So I know when we say that there's a lot of work to still be done, there will always be a lot of work to still be done. And God has allowed us to be a part of that. And so for that, I'm grateful. But you can see the major improvements over in the Ardendale area, the continued work that's going on over there with the school that was just built. There's been some housing revitalization as a result of the community college expanding its footprint over there in that area. One of the other things that I think when I think about the District 6 area that was an eyesore when I took office, and I'm sure all of you will remember on Florida Boulevard, the old Broadmoor Shopping Center that had a theater where all kinds of illegal activities were going on. I can also remember sitting at a table with the RDA, with Walter, with the gentleman who acquired the property to do a facade grant. And so now we can see and visualize the improvement in that area with the High Neighbor and the Planet Fitness and just in whole overall. And so now we're having a health clinic that Dr. Patel has done there, and the McDonald's that moved there. So there's lots of revitalization that's going on in the area. I'm very excited for it. One of the things that I can say that I'm really kind of disappointed about at this point is what I'm not going to confess this, but what seems to be the falling apart of the conversation with the old Cortana Mall with the Amazon project. Cannot understand how the whole situation is going with the last piece of what my conversations have been about with them on the Dillard's facility, not wanting to sell. I'm not sure how in depth that goes, but I'm still hopeful and prayerful that there's still conversation alive, that the mayor is not, along with everyone else who's been working on that project, will not let go of that. That whole mall can potentially become an eyesore, and so I'm really hoping that if Amazon does not press forward with this project, that there will be someone else. That's been something else that I have stood in the middle of the parking lot for years and tried to make sure that attention stayed on that mall and that it just does not become an eyesore in the district. Again, housing, my passion. And I know sometimes it seems like the work that we do takes forever, because it really seems like that to us. Brandywine Apartments was a housing development that I inherited when I first walked into the council. Has been a disaster from day one, has housed people over the times of disasters, but happy to say today that they have finally gotten final approval not to rehab Brandywine, but to completely demolish it. And they've gotten financing from Louisiana Housing Corporation and a multiple array of other entities. And so that project will come to fruition. I'm hoping that they will at least break ground before I set foot off the council on December the 31st. But those are the kind of projects that sometimes become real frustrating when you look at it from a council standpoint or from a community standpoint. We know community wants to see changes in the area and in our districts and in the city and this parish as a whole, but it is very time consuming. The work that was done with the plant in North Baton Rouge with the sewer plant and the buyout of those residents, it took, which seems like forever. But again, taking a team of committed people working together to see change happens is the only way it's going to take place. I cut my teeth on development in North Baton Rouge when, again, Mayor Broom was then State Representative Broom, who brought funding together to create UREC, which is along at the same time that CADAV came into play, Scotlandville Community Development Corporation, and some other nonprofits that still seem to be trickling along, but UREC is still alive, thriving, and doing great work in North Baton Rouge. And so that's kind of where my housing experience began. I'm just excited to be a part of a small part of the work that's been done in this parish over the last 12 years. I want to commend each and every one of you that are here and those that may be listening to us in the audience to keep on pressing on, to not become discouraged, because sometimes the work is tedious. Sometimes the work seems like it's never going to get done. We got to continue to press forward, stay united to do the work and make sure that these projects happen. There's still a lot to be done in the Ardendale area with that work. But again, as long as we can stay together, create opportunities for our community to not only see growth and economic development, but for everyone from a business and economic standpoint to have the opportunity to participate. So again, I'll stop there because I know that we are running short on time. And again, Jerry and Dr. Mims, thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you for the work that you do in North Baton Rouge. And even when I am off the council, I will still be here working in the community and always available to you guys if needed. So again, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Councilwoman Lewis.
Thank you.
We have our last but not least, Councilwoman Erica Green.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everybody for this discussion and opportunity to share. Thank my colleagues for leaving me the last 2 minutes. But seriously, District
more
5,
than 2 minutes.
yeah, thank you. District 5 stretches all the way to Scenic Highway. We cross over Plank Road, go all the way down Hooper Road, all the way down to Flannery. And so we're pretty large. We are the home of business places like Tony's Seafood and your favorite Krispy Kreme, but we're also the home for small businesses as well as the industrial road of Airline Highway. And so we have seen some changes on the Airline Highway stretch that has been losses to our restaurants. But we also seen development where we have increased in having larger companies like United Rentals and Exxon off of Scenic stay with us. We've also been able to support our small businesses even during this COVID pandemic by providing resources to them through grant funding with the mayor's office, City of Baton Rouge. What you also need to understand that in economic development, it's multifaceted. You have to have affordable housing as well. We have affordable housing in District 5, not only from larger developers coming in, but we have individual developers, homegrown developers that have taken their money and invested back in District 5 and is asking for the community to be a part of that conversation. We also have another part of economic development is making sure that our workforce is trained and ready to be able to respond to the need of the increased businesses if and when we get them. And so I'm happy to say that we also are the home of the employee our office on Plank Road, which through my tenure I've made sure to hold accountable so that we can connect the resources to and the workforce development that is needed. I think Dr. Mims mentioned earlier that there's a need for funding for the North Baton Rouge Economic Development District, and happy that I was able to get the North Baton Rouge hotel associations and hotel groups connected back to the board, because that's where our funding comes from. Many times we all want to encourage our family members and friends to stay in hotels across the city, but we need to encourage them to stay in the ones in North Baton Rouge, because that funds this development district that we lean and depend on. Jerry is working with many of us on a low budget, and so making sure that we are staying in those hotels in North Baton Rouge is important as well. District 5 received 2 times from Louisiana Highway and Safety Commission $30,000 in funding to support pedestrian safety efforts in North Baton Rouge. And we are still providing that pedestrian and safety education programs as needed. And so also you will see that BREC has been eagerly moving forward with some renovations and reopening of some of our most impacted facilities, particularly Maplewood, and then in Zion City, we are now entertaining the option of changing some things in the Zion on the Cadillac Street Breck Park. Again, that's one of our Breck Parks that provides food every day to our community. And so we want to make sure that we are aware of those changes. And then one that I'm proud of is the Longfellow redevelopment. Longfellow Park got a full facelift, walking paths, as well as crosswalk in that area, from BREC and ARP. And the goal is to continue that conversation with ARP to provide more pedestrian in ways in North Baton Rouge, particularly in District 5. And so, as I stated, we have to think about that. Well, economic development does include large businesses, small businesses. It also includes affordable housing, and development, ensuring that we do that. And it also includes making sure our workforce is prepared, and making sure that, as Mayor Broom said, we are holding ourselves responsible in neighborhood revitalization and beautification. And so when we have these community cleanup days in our districts and across the city, we need to make sure we're also participating. Again, those are a few things that I could put in a nutshell about what District 5 has done, and changes and things that you might have not known about. But we, like Lamont said, and Shauna and everyone has mentioned, we have a lot more work to do. And all of that comes from partnerships with the council member that's the closest district. When we're thinking about Bill BR in our Plank Road corridor, I share that with Lamont and Tara. When we think about bus rapid transit system providing public transit connectivity all across, and timely connectivity, that's something that I share with all of our council members. And so the accountability that you guys want from us is what we're doing. And I'll speak for myself, what I'm trying to do as it pertains to making sure these agencies that receive your tax dollars and receive your funding in North Baton Rouge are providing the services that they provide in other areas, including the city parish. Absolutely making sure the city parish is providing those services as well in an equal proportion. So that's my 10 minutes of conversation. I want to make sure we get time to answer questions.
So we will go to the questions real quickly. I think it's important that I do a real brief, I guess you can say, brag on the mayor as well as the council members, because there's a lot of work that goes on with Impact North Baton Rouge, which is also known as Baton Rouge North Economic Development District, which many of you, after you hear that long name, understand why we switched to Impact North Baton Rouge. And so one of the things I wanted to first discuss with you guys, because all of you, everyone that's on this call, that's on the panel, has expressed to us the need for a grocery store, the need for more retail. We ended up partnering with Retail Strategies. Retail Strategies, well, COVID occurred, and so now Retail Strategies is coming back to the table. They've done the first look. They've looked at the whole region of North Baton Rouge. They've looked at the retail space. They've looked at the assets that we have in the area. And now they are putting together the facts about what we can go after, what businesses we can search after, what are the breakdown requirements that they use in other areas to relocate to those spaces. And so that's going to be vital for everyone that's on this phone call, because it's going to help your districts, your communities, this district as a whole grow. That partnership came from, portion came from the mayor's office, and the other piece came from Southern University. So I definitely want to thank Southern University, the mayor's office, the council members. This district is a huge effort. We work with the senators, Senator Fields and Senator Barrow. We work with all of our state legislators, and we work with our council members and our mayor's office. Something else real quickly that we want you all to know about, not only are we working on the website, but we also have a newsletter that we put out now. Go to our Facebook page. We have so much information that we constantly share on that Facebook page, information that we know will help you guys. Be reminded that if you are a business right now, you have but a few more days to apply for the PPP. You have just a few more days to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. That is money to the tune of about $100 billion that is just literally sitting in the federal coffers right now because we do not have everyone who, and we know why. 2016, people got denied. Many of our minority community businesses were denied. So you don't want to sit up there and fill out all that paperwork to be told no again. There's a little bit more leniency in these dollars than there was in 2016, which is why everyone is encouraging you to apply. So if you can hear me, if you got friends, family members, and I hate to say this, but if you have an enemy that you know that owns a business, please let them know they need to fill out this PPP before the end of June. This money is going to go back, and you won't be able to get it. And so it's very important that you guys remember that. We constantly are working in partnerships with BRAC and so many different other organizations. We are doing certified sites in North Baton Rouge to look for possible manufacturing opportunities to be able to grow jobs. Just left a site visit a couple of days ago for a food manufacturing site that we're working on. So there's a lot of efforts that's taking place that works across the boundaries of these council districts, that work across the boundaries of these state representative districts, as well as the senator districts. And so one of the projects that we've been assisting with and this has been going on for quite some time, and we're excited about this project, is the project that's going on with the Scotlandville master plan. So it took place before that they had a Scotlandville master plan, but now it is what I would call the Scotlandville master plan 2.0. So it is being refreshed along with the same time as the Southern plan is being refreshed. And so I am going to let Ms. Pat LaDuff have about 2 to 3 minutes to share so that we can get to the 7 questions that we have down here. Once it gets past 10 questions, I'm cutting it off. And so we're going to ask Ms. LaDuff to please come on now.
Okay, good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am, very clear.
Okay, awesome. So we're so excited. It was great hearing Councilwoman Donald Collins talk about where our great beginnings in '93 when Scotlandville CDC and CADAV and actually UREC actually got started. And so this has been a 28-year endeavor for many of us, and we're excited about it with CPEX and the Wilson Foundation coming to the table to help us with this survey. We had 524 responders, and the findings are in. We have 2 Zoom meetings, one Tuesday at 6 and one Thursday at 12 noon, where same meeting. So actually 2 opportunities to dial in. So thank you so much for this town hall. I'd like to see this happen every quarter. It's awesome to have everybody in the same room talking about what's happening in just North Baton Rouge. And so keep in mind, tomorrow we have the press conference for Juneteenth. This is our kickoff. And what we're saying is we don't want a moment, we want a movement. And so wherever we are now, we want to be able to gauge the LEVA next year and see what progress we have made. And every Juneteenth, I think it's time to reassess where we are and what we've accomplished. 8 o'clock to 8:09 tomorrow night, we will be standing against racism across the nation. Spread that word. Come with your candle at the end of your driveway. Take pictures and share Juneteenth. Hashtag Juneteenth BR Light, LIGHT. And thank you so much, and welcome on behalf of Scotlandville residents. We're here to support all of our helpers that are in office at a policy level, and we're here for change. And in order to have change, you got to make a change. And so with that, thank you, and please dial in Tuesday and Thursday of next week for the survey findings.
Thank you so much, Ms. LaDuff. I appreciate your service to our community. At this time, we are going to get down real quickly to the questions. I'm going to knock out the first question myself because it says, will the presentation be made available after meeting? And yes, it will be. It is recorded, and it's not only is it recorded, but it's also on Facebook Live on our page. You can go and review it as many times as you need to. If you feel as though you need additional information, or if you would like to sign up for the newsletter, you can sign up at jerry@brnedd.com. So I'm going to click done on that question. Let's move on to the next one. How would the community revitalization, community beautification work for new nonprofit organizations that are interested with working with the city and urban communities? Who would like to take a grab at that one?
Repeat it again, Jerry.
It says, how would the community revitalization, community beautification work for new nonprofit organizations that is interested with working with the city and urban communities?
I'll take a stab at it. Can you guys hear me?
I think the mayor.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on who the nonprofit is and where they're located and the work that they want to be engaged in. So if one place to do is to reach out to the council person in your district, not limited to that. And also I see the mayor is back on. There may be some opportunities through the mayor's office, through the revitalization beautification dollars that are available. And then like a lot of us, we do our own community projects with volunteers, soliciting donations from different organizations or entities such as Lowe's or Home Depot, doing gardens, doing those kind of things in our community that we can do, not necessarily with having to have money per se, but just getting donations and getting volunteers. One of the things that I didn't mention in my time was the old Gilbert Cemetery, which was another eyesore in the community, which was a great place to look at now. And that was all basically done with volunteers from the community, getting supplies from different entities, and revitalizing that cemetery. And so it doesn't always take dollars to do these things in the communities. Sometimes you got to start with what you have and with volunteers and with donations from other stores or anybody that will give you some supplies.
Yeah, I would answer that. I was trying to hear it again. I think
I'll ask it again.
Yeah, please.
How would the community revitalization, community beautification work for new nonprofit organizations that are interested with working with the city and urban communities?
Yes, so certainly connecting to what Councilwoman Lewis just said, the city has both of those platforms through our community development. We have beautification efforts. And so we partner with nonprofits, with neighborhood organizations. We're constantly connecting with neighborhood organizations and encouraging them to connect with us so they can be part of the platform of the outreach that we do, both in community revitalization and in community beautification. One of the efforts I would say that is extremely important is that there are different organizations who are out there doing a lot of work, and it would be advantageous if you are a new organization also to perhaps connect with someone who started to do that type of work. There may be some connectivity between your vision and the vision of someone else in your community where you can partner and put together your resources. But nevertheless, I welcome you to our office and connecting with us specifically through Helen Frink, who works with our community outreach.
Thank you so much, Mayor. The next question that we have, and you're probably going to be able to address this one too, is what entity is responsible for dredging the Baton Rouge sewer system? And is Baton Rouge studying innovative ways to increase our flood protection systems?
Great question, and I will tell you that, our sewer system, people paid a lot of money for the renovation and upgrade of our sewer system. You know, that happened long before I came in office. We all pay a sewer fee. The work has been done. In fact, we were under a consent decree around that. So at the end of the day, of course, our Department of Environmental Services is responsible for anything dealing with the sewer. But there has been a lot of work going on as it relates to our sewer and our drainage issues. But let me just say, if you have a specific issue as it relates to sewer backup, perhaps in your community, I encourage you not only to reach out to your council member, but to reach out to our office, and we'll be glad to take a closer look at that. Now, the second question had to do with drainage, and I will tell you that I'm really excited that we have engaged in a study around improving drainage here in East Baton Rouge Parish. The council supported those dollars. And not only that, but now we have money for the 5 tributaries that are directly connected to problems or overflowing and were part of the challenge that we had in the Great Flood of 2016. So those thousands of dollars you will see manifesting in some changes regarding the tributaries and overall having an impact on our drainage. You know, when I think about the issue of drainage, I will tell you that it's an issue that people are concerned about from one end of the parish to the other end of the parish. And certainly the experience of 2016 and the Great Flood brought it up to an entire different level. And so since then, and since I've been in office, we have been aggressively approaching and attacking, if you will, drainage issues. But those issues certainly take time in addressing. And so in the meantime, what we've been doing, and I heard somebody on the call say this, I can't remember if it maybe was Councilwoman Banks, but even in the midst, while you're in the waiting process of things to get underway, there are always things that you can do. And I have to give a big shout out to Fred Rayford, who is over transportation and drainage for the city and parish. People like Kyle Huffslinger, who is also over maintenance. And they have been taking a lot of proactive steps to address drainage so that when we have weather incidents like we had recently, we won't see the impact as we have historically.
Thank you so much, Mayor. The next question, I believe, is something that I will have to address. It says, in the planning strategy, are the commercial plans review departments involved or have an understanding of what North Baton Rouge economic development goals or expectations are for small business development opportunities? They seem to give small businesses, me in particular, where I have some individual knowledge, a difficult time getting through the process. And so I'm going to type the answer, which is going to be my email address for that gentleman. Our organization assists businesses with getting through any hiccups that may occur through their process of setting up their business in North Baton Rouge. And we've worked very well with the city's staff in every department, really, to get that address. So I just sent him my email address so that he can get in contact with me. And if he is a particular, if he has a particular council person, I'll be sure to CC you all in that email, the respective council person. With businesses with a smaller footprint, less than 1,500, I believe he's the same person. So I'm gonna, what I'll do is I will assist him, and because it's a question about it's a business inquiry. Will the slides the mayor presented be emailed out, or is there a way to view it again? They were so colorful, Mayor. I think that's.
Well, let me just say, if you want a copy of the slides, please email me at mayor@brla.gov, mayor@brla.gov, and I'd be glad to forward them to you.
Awesome. And the next question we have is, why can't, this is a question that we're going to have to ask, we'll have to ask Southern University this question. It's a question about wanting to know how we can strengthen the relationship between the university and the business community, that is local business community, that could help market items that they may make in the ag department, like the grocery items, seafood, meat, and stuff like that. And so the question is kind of centered around that. I'm not sure anyone on this particular call can address that, but I do know who can, and I saw an SU representative on the call, so I will forward that. I'll facilitate that conversation and see how we can come to some type of agreement on that conversation. Here's another question. Okay, excellent planning and focus for all districts. A major concern I have is the mitigation of flood concerns for the future. Another major event can stop nearly all of these and also plans many other areas. And I think you've addressed that, Mayor, with the, what is the timetable for preventative actions taking place? I think this person is asking.
If you keep on the bottom of the questions and answers, you can see the questions. See the little Q&A at the bottom? You can actually see.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was reading when the question came up. I was trying to, I was reading other questions though. Which question are we looking at now?
I have not.
This is the one at the very bottom.
The excellent planning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The question towards the end.
Okay.
It's kind of, it addressed the question that you answered it, as far as the addressing of the flood ways. But I think what they're wanting to know is, when is the timetable starts on a lot of the projects that you were talking about?
Yeah, the timetable has already started once, first of all, on the drainage plan. We've already started that. The other projects that are involved should be probably next year before you see all of them, not all of them, some of them up and running. It's a massive project. Many of you all have heard about the Amy and Comey River diversion plans. Well, you know, some of them.
Can you hear me, Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Some of them have been on the drawing board for years, from when I was back in the legislature, and just last year we were able to launch the Comey River Diversion Canal Initiative. So I will say, be optimistic. Change is on the way, help is on the way, and you should see some of those things take place or start next year.
Well, Mayor, and to the council members, I want to thank you guys for this opportunity. We're in the planning phase for a town hall with our senators and our state reps, and then we're also doing a planning phase for our Congress members, our 2 congressmen. I do want to thank my board. Many of my board members have been on the calls. Some of them have had to go from Facebook to Zoom, but they're in and they're listening and they're participating. Cannot say enough of how grateful I am to Dr. Mims for her leadership and her participation. Brian LaFleur, who's our vice chair. A lot of all of my board members are really community focused minded. Desmion Barrow, Dr. James Gilmore, Dr. Leroy Davis, Gary Chambers, Jesse Glasper, Ron Smith, Tara Barrow Williams, Miss Andrea Cozy, Bill Pizzolatto, and Stephanie Cargile. I just want to thank each and every one of them for their leadership and their participation, and just thank everyone for tying into this call and really getting some information. And Ms. LaDuff says every quarter. That's real tough, but we're going to try to see if we can. We'll try to see if we can kind of coordinate that. But just thank you, and I'm gonna turn the phone
Jerry.
over. I'm sorry.
I just let me just say one quick thing, if it's okay. I don't want to leave that that question about Southern University. I know you said that we didn't have anyone on here specifically from Southern, but I do want to just 2 seconds address that, because I think it was very, very important, and because I have a unique perspective in what happened at LSU and the neighborhood surrounding it. I want to make sure that we don't leave that conversation while Southern University is actively involved in the revitalization of what's going on in the surrounding area. I think it is important that we utilize the resources that's on campus, but do not forget that we don't also want this competition between the university and those businesses that are surrounding that area, because that became a point of contention at LSU, where LSU was doing a lot of stuff that was on campus that the neighborhood needed, which was great, but you also had businesses right there around LSU that had stood the test of time, that were there, that were suffering because of that competition. So I think it's really important early on that we address that and make sure that there's a partnership and not a competition, but you utilize resources on both ends. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Great points. Thank you so much. Dr. Mims, you have the floor.
Well, I wanted to just thank all of you. Brian LaFleur is caught up on another conference call and he wasn't able to close out, so you have me again. Mayor, City Council representatives, thank you so much. I can tell you that in the dialogue among the commissioners of the Baton Rouge North Economic Development District, we have very ambitious ideas, right? But limited resources and limited staffing. And so we want you to keep that in mind. We will continue to reach out to you. Again, we're going to have some more dialogue about your expectations with regard to the Baton Rouge North Economic Development District and how we can more effectually partner with the city and the community. Again, Jerry is really, we have one full-time staff person and one part-time staff person. And so we are eager to assist the community, especially the business community, with regard to how to establish your business, revitalize your business, even start a business. That's only one piece of it. I got to put on my glasses, old age. Mayor, you talked about revitalization, and that's been a #1 thing for us as well. We feel like we can attract new businesses and industry to our community when we have to deal with the blight. I know Councilwoman Lewis and Councilman Green, you've heard me talk about the fact that we have debris at abandoned properties, right? Abandoned homes, and this business about unless the utilities are on, you don't pick up the trash, but you impact where I live and my utilities are on. So we want to have more dialogue and be more specific about the particular projects we want to work on and how we can partner with all of you to make those things a reality in North Baton Rouge. Those of us that serve on the commission either have businesses in North Baton Rouge or we live in North Baton Rouge. I see Councilman Cole has dropped off. That's my council person, and I live in 708-005, right? Where we have all of the social ills.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay, all right.
I'm still here.
And Councilman Cole, thank you so much. You've been very attentive in working with us, especially in the Estruma area, in many of the cleanup projects, and dealing with some of the abandoned properties. Some of them take a long time, and I will say that for the benefit of community persons on the call, some of these efforts take a while because of legal processes to get things done. But I am here to tell you that there has not been a council person that we have not reached out to, that has not, including the mayor's office, that has not assisted us. Sometimes it's just the legalities of it that takes time to get things done. I want to thank everybody who called in and those that remained to the very end in participating. And thanks again to our executive director, Jerry Jones for this novel idea and having this virtual town meeting.